Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear and see me properly. Again, I got an error just before streaming from YouTube. Looks like it's working, but I'll keep an eye on it. Again, not my fault this time. You didn't see anything. Hope everyone's doing well. I'll pop out the live chat so I can see your questions a bit better. Some really good comments this week under the recent videos. The responses are really good. It helps me think of new topics and expand or do follow-up videos based on a topic I've already thought about, or someone has a really great comment under the video, and it makes me think of a completely different video. Had that person not made the comment, I would never have thought of that train of thought. So yeah, keep the comments coming. It's not just what I think about, it's what some of you guys through your own experience think about and write in the comments that help people more than sometimes my own videos. Okay. Can everyone see and hear me? I got an error, but it seems like it's working. Anyway. Looks like it's fine. Don't know what it is though. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? So as always, we're talking about the latest videos, and they're kind of related. What I tend to do is, like, the produced videos, not the live ones, when I do a live stream afterwards, I try and talk about those because you guys have sort of had a couple of days and left comments, and it's fresh in everyone's mind, including my own. Hello to the regulars: Feral, August, Vero, Sean, Schlitz, Cubing Speed, Roman. How are you guys? All right. My volume's okay. Now, look, I'm always trying to do the right thing in my life and get better, sharpen myself, not be as embarrassed through my choices, definitely try and not make the same naive mistakes that I made before. Give myself a break if I make new mistakes that I can learn from and never touch the same hot stove again. So I'm always trying to get better and refine my life and sharpen things and change the dials, and through conversation make sure I'm not solipsistically doing it, but that I'm doing it as realistically as I can. But I also know that I'm not a goal-driven person as much as most people. So a lot of the advice out there is very goal-driven for goal-driven people, and I've never been that way. I love the process of things. So maybe it's my artistic inclination where I really enjoy the process of something, and then the reward of it later on, holding up the trophy or the victory, or I finished, or I wrote the book, or I did the video. To me, that's just the byproduct, like it's on to the next thing. So I'm not sort of holding my breath until I hold that trophy above my head. Like those moments, I just keep going through. So the progression, the path through, to use an overworn word, the journey, but the process is what I'm motivated by, not the goal, not the target. For me, holding up some sort of trophy, a victory, an endpoint, is just a byproduct, if you will, of doing the right thing and being consistent. So that's why I'm always talking about, and that's why I made these recent videos about thinking about doing the right thing and being consistent with what you know to be right. Do what you know to be right instead of always letting yourself down. It's glib, it's cliche, it's what all the self-help sort of says, but the more we can kind of almost counterintuitively, but it's not intuition, feelings, do always lean towards what we know to be right, even if we can't, if it's hard, if we procrastinate, if there's a lot of resistance, because it's almost 100% of the time you are glad you did it. Can't be bothered going for a jog once you get out and do the jog, even if it's a struggle. Once you've done it, mentally, you feel a lot more of a release. So, and the thing is with me, yeah, I've had the benefit of naturally enjoying the process a lot more because I love sitting down in isolation, being left alone to draw, write, contemplate, work on something long term. I'm not target driven. And so for me, the target takes care of itself because I know I'm doing the right thing, rather than sleepwalking through life and only having my eyes on the prize, which works for a lot of people. In fact, most people, as far as I can see, because all of the advice out there seems to be goal-driven advice and very, very little practical, process-driven advice. And so just off the top of my head in preparation for this stream, I asked a question of people. And the question was, how have you improved at getting what you want? And how should you perhaps improve? And after I asked the question, I thought about it some more. And I realized I'm not goal driven anyway, but I was just asking a general question about being driven towards living the right way and doing the right thing, whether it's with women or your routines, habits, the thing you want to achieve, long-term goals, not spontaneous, emotionally stimulated goals. And I kind of realized that this question really, I don't really want very much. I want to be able to be doing what I enjoy doing and knowing that I'm feeling good doing the right thing, like knowing that my life makes sense at the moment. And so, and I got a few really good comments under the poll, under the question. And I asked this question, let me rephrase it. One particular question confirmed what I was thinking. And it was two dogs who said, I guess the first question to answer is, what do I want out of life? I've been struggling with that question for a few years now, and I have no idea how to answer it. And I smiled when I read two dogs' comment, because I was thinking the same thing. I don't know what I want in the sense of a target or a goal, but I know how I want to live. And so the question of what do you want that I was asking, I think can be refined for people like myself who are not goal driven to something like, how do you want? Not what do you want, but how do you want? And that makes more sense for me. That makes sense in terms of, how do I want to live? How do I want to make choices? If you're going to choose a girl, how is it going to work for you? How is this working? So if you will, the present process, if it's working well, is your intuition saying this is good, this makes sense, and when I ask how and why, it still makes sense? Or do you feel nervous? The how and the why really makes is the most important thing as far as I can see, because you can be goal driven and you can be blind chasing your goal and you'll get wrecked all the way through. You don't care about the hows and the whys and the quality. It's just the quantity, earning money, going to the gym, bro, rather than honestly asking a question about who you are and how you want to live. So the hows and the whys I thought are very important. So this is one of the great things that I love about my channel, where I ask a question, I'm chewing on something, and these kind of comments get me to change this, which is foggy, into this, which is a bit more clear. So thanks for that, two dogs. If any of you guys who are here during the stream have any questions you want to direct to me if you're live here, make sure if you're here asking a question, put about 3 very brightly colored emojis, like bright yellow or orange circles, so I can see them. Otherwise, I just see a stream of people talking, and that's fine. Talk amongst yourselves, have a conversation about what I'm talking about. But if it's directed to me, add 3 colorful, bright yellow or orange emojis that I can actually see. Feral Android asks me in the stream, Human, I'm just curious, since you don't care about body count, do you care if your date is a single mother? Interesting question. I've dated single mums in the past, but not young children. I've dated women who had older teenage kids. So their daughters or sons were like 16, 18, about to move out of home. Or they were mothers and their kids don't live with them or something. So basically kids who are older, but she realistically won't have time. If she's a good mother, she won't have time to focus on me. And, I just want to be with her. I've never wanted to be a father. And I certainly don't want to be with someone where I'm an invisible father, because I don't want to be. And she's going to rightly give attention to the kid that she should, because she's a good mother. If she wasn't a good mother, it's sort of those no good qualities will translate into me as well. She'll be so selfish if she's not a good mother that she'll be selfish with me too, where she won't be fair. So I've dated single mothers, but only when their children are fairly old or they've moved out of home. Basically, I'm just interested in the person. A few new members have popped in. Roman says, I have improved on getting what I want. I don't make my boyfriend Sebastian any dinner until I get what I want. That's usually because he knows I'm the better cook. Yeah, I really enjoy when my woman cooks for me. But cooking, I appreciate it. But, some guys have an immovable set of rules, like, body count. She's got to be a fantastic chef. She's got to be blah, 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 like a whole bunch of high standards, which is great as long as they're realistic and as long as you can reflect those in ways that she wants. As in, you require, high standards from a woman, but then she can require high standards from you, or that your standards are compatible. You've got a lot of guys who want a Victoria's Secret model who's intelligent, funny, witty, never boring, is a great gamer. Just add all the best standards on that list. And when you ask them, like, okay, so what compatible things are you going to offer? And it's like, well, just me. What do you mean she should just love me? I'm tired of being a human doing. Men are tired of being used. It's like, well, you can't expect a lot from her. And like any relationship, your friends. Yeah, if one person paid for dinner all the time, or one person kept organizing events or doing all the work and everyone else just sat there like a zero, after a while, the intelligent person that's more conscientious would get annoyed and saying, I'm being used by these people. At least even if I give 80%, like they're not coming 20% of the way. So be realistic about what you want if you're more goal driven, or how you want to live. And when you're looking for compatibility in terms of, say, a partner, where what plugs into you and your lifestyle, and most importantly, especially when it comes to love and relationships, what you're prepared to give. There's so many women who give nothing and expect everything. The answer's staring you dead in the face. Love is a tennis match. It's a loop. If it's one way, you get, like, if you don't provide anything for that loop to kind of circulate, it doesn't come back. You can exhaust the man and empty his tank for a few weeks until he's depleted, or the relationship runs out, or you drive him away, or you get bored. But the only way you get love is to give love. It's like business. The only way, like, you've got to spend money to make money. So you can sit there and it never grows, but you have to contribute. What's the word? Relationally and cooperatively, back and forth, that tennis match, for it to keep going and hopefully growing. But if you don't contribute, nothing like, your car's going nowhere if you don't, take care of it. Me and my metaphors. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, put 3 brightly colored, preferably on the warmer spectrum, 3 yellow or orange emojis before your question, just so I can see it as a question. Hey, Quaz, how you going? Yeah, Quasimandias says, you can't get what you want unless you know who you are, and that changes. Many waste a whole life chasing something they wanted when they were 20. Yes, I agree. I've said this a few times, and Quaz and I are on the same page with a lot of these ethical and moral questions regarding your own moral philosophy and like how you should live, and realizing that you're an ever-evolving thing going forward, that many of us are in the jobs that the 20-year-old us set for ourselves. That's why a lot of people, they kind of work their way up sort of some career ladder, and they get to midlife and it's like they might be a lawyer and all they've wanted to do was, I don't know, carve wood, make furniture. And it's not a transition. It requires a rebirth. And most people, it's really hard. That rebirth is very hard. Most people don't do it. And I think the Stoics even mention it in a lot of their writings. Was it Charles Dickens who said that? Something, it's like it's pointing to the rebirth moment, but he says the 2 most important moments in a person's life is when they were born and when they figure out why, something like that. And I think it's related to consciously discovering who you are, usually in midlife, and then changing your life accordingly. Because the saddest thing is a guy who's myopically going on autopilot, being directed by his parents, society, women, and doing the right thing and sort of being comfortable in someone else's script and living in quiet desperation until he gets to his, winter years. Don't waste your life. And if you don't know what you want, think it important enough to be interested in being curious. And the thing about being curious about what you want in women, in life in general, in yourself evolving, is that you're less annoyed and angry. Again, to sort of be my predictable self, a saying that always sticks in my mind is that you cannot be angry and curious at the same time. You can't. So all these guys and girls out there who are really angry and bitter and they don't want to cooperate and it's just gimme, 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 my one-way street or nothing. And I'm not saying you need to forgive someone who's done you wrong, but you cannot grow and be curious and open and sort of move forward and go your own way, so to speak, that we used to care about a lot more as guys before. You cannot be curious if you're bitter and angry. And that's a great thing about intellectual curiosity, philosophical curiosity, having conversations where you don't jump down the person's throat because you don't agree with what they say. A lot of the frustrations guys have with their exes is because women's insecurities makes them very incurious because they can't afford to be, because they've got a lot of the survival fight or flight mode in them. So anything that makes them feel unsafe, they fight back. Women are less curious than men because of safety reasons. But as a guy, you've got every opportunity to be much more curious and choose to be curious. Just make the choice. I'm going to be curious as much as possible. Not be foolhardy, but be curious a lot more than rigidly intellectual, because you want to be certain and that you think that'll keep you safe. It's a funny thing because I had to let go of my intellectual egotism because I wanted to know more and more and more. And you build this barricade around you, but then your world is turning to black and white more and more and more, and the colors going out of it, the more you construct security around it. And what I had to do, because, if we're thinking logically, I got to think, hey, human, You've designed your life almost perfectly. On paper, what are you complaining about? Everyone else can confirm that your life is pretty good, yet you don't feel fulfilled. You feel like you're just watching a black and white movie with no sound. And the only thing to do is logically pivot, do something different. Something logical, but something different. Instead of trying to control a lot, don't control it. See what happens. You can always control later on. I can always grab it the same way I was grabbing it last week. Let me try and let go of things. Let me counterintuitively do things in a different yet logical way, in the way that my curiosity is leaning and saying, let's try this. In the same way you go to a restaurant and you're not quite hungry for one particular thing, and you let yourself try something else. I've discovered so many things since I started the letting go attitude. Doing what I know I should do, but am stubbornly afraid to or don't want to because I think I know who I am. I don't think I get many people asking questions because I just blab so much. Argonis Angry says, it seems we lost the ability to find and be good company. Yes. Well, also the marketing out there teaches you to, the ends always justify the means and to exploit people. All the media videos and stuff that gets attention out there are gotcha things where someone exploited something just before it was illegal. Like, skirt just before the law, exploit everything, winner takes all attitude, rather than cooperation, community, doing the right thing, being good. It's kind of like each person just get as much as you can. And then later on you complain, like, where's my family? Where are my friends? Where's the love? Why is everyone so angry? Well, what do you act like? August Line says, don't be a human doing, be a human streaming. Farrell says, I haven't seen Donna in chat for a while. Is she okay? I haven't heard from her in a while too. Maybe she's going her own way. I don't know. I haven't heard from her in a while as well. I usually see her on here, maybe once or twice on Discord. I might reach out and DM her and just ask if everything's okay. Fitfingers says, human, to what extent do we need to avoid empty platitudes like no excuses or do the work and actually address individual struggles to provide better solutions for those with minimal drive? I think the pushy, arrogant sort of motivation, it can work for some people. I actually prefer more of the tough love aphorisms and sayings to sort of clarify what's right. I don't like to be coddled too much. I like clear and direct communication and conversations. I'm not a fan of, when someone goes to therapy and they're crying and the therapist says, I'll let it out. Yeah. Like they encourage people to be a broken dam and, an open wound. I don't. I prefer a neutral civil discussion and then motivation forward. Yeah, recognize what's wrong, who's to blame, what happened, but don't wallow in it, because if you sit in it, those emotions and those flashbacks will come back. So I would say take the medicine that works for you, but don't kick yourself, because I know one or two people in my life who constantly only get motivated by talking down to themselves and kicking themselves, and you wear yourself out. If your superego, psychologically speaking, for those of you who kind of know the jargon, your superego is that inner voice in your head. And if it's the parent putting you down and pointing its finger down and telling you were never any good and you're just like your father and blah, 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 it's putting you down, that's not good. You want the sympathetic kind, yet the strict parent who, or, the friend that loves you or cares about you, but wants you to get up off your ass. Like the kind of tough love and hazing that men used to constructively do with each other back in the day. Certainly not this time with all this PC, but we used to kind of show a lot more tough love for the right reasons and in a much more civil and constructive way. Now it's just a very feminine way where we don't fix things. We just sort of wallow in the negative feelings and, victimhood cells, and like we wallow in being broken, and that's how we get attention. And heaven forbid we try and better ourselves, because then it's like crabs in the bucket, both in the male spaces online and generally. Like one person tries to better themselves. You look at the fat acceptance community. You can look. I'll say, like, everyone, like, respect the person, but if one person in that group sort of says, like, I want to get thinner because of health reasons, and I'm tired of complaining, and I know I want to get thinner, and my doctor says I should get thinner, and everything's saying, except for my emotions, and I know it's difficult, and I know there's a lot of positive personality-wise things that, it doesn't make a difference if I'm happy, sure. But the moment one of those people tries to climb out of the bucket and get thinner, all the fat crabs pull them down. And it's the same in a lot of the guys in the men's community. It's the same certainly with women. So sort of a lot of the dynamics of the worst kind of women has really infected a lot of the worst kind, the guys in the community too. But look, I'm of the opinion I will help anyone who's drowning until they start pulling me under. I have little to no sympathy for guys who don't want to at least talk realistically. Sure, this happened to you, that happened to you, but meet me halfway, or meet me 20% of the way. But it's not 100% I'm right and the world and women are wrong. Come on. You go on a date with that attitude, what do you think will happen? If you get a girl with that attitude where you're 100% right in frame, you're the king, the hero, and she's just a living, breathing doll, I can almost guarantee how that's going to work out. This is not going to work out really well. Paul says, what do you think of dating overseas? Yeah, a lot of guys have found success dating overseas. I always say, do what you really want to do in the best way possible. Try every avenue. Guys who want to have kids, I'm not going to say, oh, you're an idiot. I'm not going to shame him. If you realize this is the one thing that the person's living for, and that's his goal in life, that's where he's really going to be fulfilled. Who am I? Like egotist, like megalomaniacally thinking that I know all the answers. I don't. I'm refining my own life, and everyone's different. The best thing we can do is have conversations where the common ground is that we think better and make better decisions than our naive selves yesterday. Speaking of yesterday, I had a really good conversation with a couple of guys on Discord. I'll be bringing out that conversation in the next week on my chat channel, so stay tuned to the notifications there. Subscribe to my chat channel if you already haven't. It's in the low bar and in my about section, I think. But it was with one of the guys in the comments section here. So it was with Pete. Pete, the guy you refused to invite to gatherings. Karu, Boffin, and myself, I think. Am I forgetting anyone? Yeah. Okay, what other questions are there? Yeah, Jordan says, some people spend their entire lives climbing the ladder only to realize in the end it was leaning against the wrong wall. That's a really good saying. I'll pin that. The poll, this was the poll I gave, or the question really. How have you improved at getting what you want? And how should you? Now, I already gave Two Dogs' comment, but some of the other notable ones, and this was a comment, I think this was in, let me see. I think this was only to my the members who have joined my channel on YouTube. No, it wasn't. It was to everybody. Sorry, that was to everybody. And some of the answers were pretty interesting. Wozgash says, consistent action, in terms of answering this question, how have you improved in getting what you want and how should you? He says, consistent action if you want it, want to or not. Makes the process joyless though. This was very insightful by Wozgash. So there's all these kind of, it's either black or white for a lot of the self-help, like like robotically driven in one direction to get everything you want, or be completely feelings based and not move anywhere and feel like a failure. So he says, consistent action, if you want it or not, makes the process joyless though. Unfortunately, attaining the goal is short-lived and you want something else pretty fast. I tend not to set goals anymore as it seems futile and a chase game, yet having no goal leaves you unmotivated. So not much winning either way. I'd say the closest you can get is finding something in which the process is enjoyable and has no defined end goal. Yes, this is what I was mentioning at the start. I was reflecting on this as well as I was reading all these comments under the question, and please feel free to go in the community tab of my channel and put your own comments under this question that I've left there in the community tab. I noticed that I really don't care about goals, and somehow I feel good that the goals will be taken care of if I just do the right thing. If I do the right process, I will get the goals along the way, and they will just be stepping stones onto the following process. I remember when I used to sort of publish stories and books, and I would get family members who realized after the fact, and they were saying, oh, I just saw on, on your Facebook or wherever it was that you published another book. And I said, oh yeah, like last week or last month. And they're like, why didn't you say anything? I go, I don't know. I just like continuing, which is probably why I don't like the constant dating cycle. I see it as one continual process that I enjoy doing. That's why I like to sort of be in a relationship with one person. I like long-term for that reason. I don't like the instability of chasing different people and being in the cycle of socializing, like trying to find romantic love. Like once I've got it, it's kind of, then that sets the precedence to be able to organize the rest of my life. Here's my woman. Here's the other time I can have with creating the things I want to have. I need time for my job, family. So, yeah, the maintenance, like how am I supposed to provide maintenance for different areas of my life, like family, hobbies, and things like that, if I'm sort of thirsty for one area of my life and continually having McDonald's drive-through in the area of dating. No, I want to set and forget a lot of those things, not forget, but set them in my life and then give the maintenance and attention to them in a well-balanced kind of life, if you know what I mean. Seguro says, discipline and hard work, education helped in answering this question above. David P says, I've improved by defining and redefining what it is I want, drawing the boundaries between useful and useless, taking the useful and further refining those things to meet my needs. Becoming efficient in the process is key. Yes, efficiency. Again, you get robotic, your mind fights back and it procrastinates and it resists your mechanical process. I think your body and your mind is always reminding you that you're a human being, that you're part of nature. So there's something to be said for directing yourself towards a not robotic consistency, but a habitual consistency with room to move as a person, as a human being, pardon the pun. But I think we look for binary answers. All men are like this, all women are like this. It's always a black and white choice, and it's not. Life is a gray area. You're the only black and white thing, subjectively speaking, but everything else, you're playing with gray. QUA says, fear was my driving mechanism for years. Now I'm trying to transition into acting from a place of gratitude. Curiosity, as I said. try to find a useful emotion that works for you, because there's some emotions like gratitude. To me, it sounds a bit sort of Oprah-esque, maybe because it's been sort of bastardized too much, and it's sort of been run through the meme self-help thing too much by people that are frankly embarrassing to me. But yeah, find a word that makes sense to you, which helps you go a better way. For me, it's being curious. For you, it might be being grateful. So just find the language that leads you in a more productive or tranquil direction without lying to yourself and saying, oh, well, this direction here, watching online PORN all day, that's gratitude. Don't lie to yourself. Thunder says, in order to get what I want, I must learn about myself more. Yeah, it's what Quasimandias was mentioning. And he continues, I get what I want by not allowing others to use me without reciprocal benefit. Yes. And I think I answered, if the wrong people are draining your fuel more than you can give to yourself, you'll never get what you want in the end, or you never live how you want and realize what works for you. If you're always giving away that fuel that you would need to find out how you want to live and who you are and what kind of things and people you plug into, the world is always trying to take from you, and setting up your boundaries so you have enough fuel to direct yourself will sort of help resist a lot of the leeching of the world. Some really great comments. Keep them coming. Any more in the live stream here? Where are we here? I always have to point in the opposite direction. Just the Guy says, nothing lasts forever. Let people experience what they want as long as they pay as long as they pay a too high price for that. Finding compatibility in addition to all other things you like is very unrealistic. Really? If I'm reading you correctly, you are saying nothing lasts forever. It's too hard to find compatibility with things you like. I disagree. I'm not saying you always can and that it'll be perfect, but you can look at someone, whether it's like me or someone who's even more optimistic, with like no realism, and you can say this person's blind, but the quality of their life matters. You can sit here nihilistic and realistic to the point, like a sort of a Nietzschean, not even a Nietzschean realism, but a Camus realism of like, we're all going to die one day. Everything is metaphorical. Nothing is real. There's no tactility in the world. Nothing matters. Like you sever the cords to reality where you're free of everything, right? But then when you're not attached to the reality that can actually give you some life, happiness, like conversation, friends, good experiences with women, love, even if they don't last, where you start looking back and you don't hate your exes anymore, you can really acknowledge, well, you were with them for a good deal of time because things were good until they weren't good, and then you realize, and then you broke up for good reasons and you learned lessons and stuff. So, yeah, respectfully disagree. I can have a realistic discussion with someone who's more pessimistic. I can't even speak today. Pessimistic to the point of being a more black PILL. But no, I choose to be more realistically optimistic, because what am I risking? If between glass half full and glass half empty, I choose glass half full if I'm being realistic. My attitude before, during, and after will be better than the pessimistic, nothing matters kind of person that believes in the worst outcome, the realistic worst outcome, and then is grateful if it happens to work out exactly in his favor or better. So before, during, after, I'm happy with being more realistic when it's sensible and logical to do so. I think the mistake a lot of guys make is that in our natural adherence to logic, we sort of like boil it down to the most black and white, lifeless logic in existence. Like, we're born, we die, nothing matters. End of story. Yep. It's the basic story. But it sort of discounts everything in between. It discounts what you're doing now, the conversation you're having, the things you're typing on the page, why you're passionate about these things. But I can't make people think or be or feel what they don't want to feel. So do you and use your life, or waste your life as you see fit. It's not mine. Musashi, how are you, man? AKA Martial Arts Oriental Medicine. I can actually say Musashi a lot quicker rather than MAOM. Quasimandai says, in Nordic tradition, one of the most horrible curses of the gods was this: to grant a fool what they want. Yeah, that says volumes. Grant an idiot what he wants. And so think about people today, how emotionally juvenile they are, and the world is giving them exactly what they want. And just notice as they grow up and they become 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50, 60-year-old toddlers who are allowed to eat chocolate cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What kind of people are there? How many friends do they have? How much do you want to be around them? These are the trolls of the comment section. Hey, Boffin, how you going? Mikkel says, how do you imagine the last years of your life would go if they were to go in an ideal manner, according to you? The last years, healthy, mobile, and I pass away in my sleep. That's it. I think most people would pick something like that. Other than that, I don't like to speculate too much in terms of like designing like the ideal life, like where I'd be, who I'd be with, like my life, my house, and all this kind of like stuff. You could sort of decorate it, but just structurally, healthy, mobile, like healthy mentally and physically, and then just out of nowhere, I just pass away in my sleep without knowing it. Feel no pain. MGTOW Biologic says, seems like bettering yourself is also painting a target on your back. How so? I'm not quite sure what you mean. For the person just mouthing the platitudes who can't ethically implement them or really isn't made for them, maybe. But anyway, just let me know what you mean by that. Roman says, I'm struggling with a relative who is a son husband, 48 years old, and has never left home. His mum has a terminal illness and doesn't have much time left. I fear for him once she passes away. Yeah, that's hard. What do they call it? The absorbing mother or something. There's a psychological term for how the mother never lets the son go, never allows him to cut the purse strings, or makes it really hard for him. And a lot of guys can't say that no to their mothers, regardless of if they were good or bad. Hit the like button, fellas. Yes, thank you. Some comments. Hit the like, subscribe, join the channel. Geronimo says, as a 24-year-old guy in Germany who has quite understood the dynamic between men and women in this day and age, it is quite difficult to figure out how exactly to act. I understand. And why aren't I wearing my glasses instead of squinting? Yeah, it is hard. As I said in the last video, how did I phrase it? What you want, doing the right thing, all these kind of very short poetic platitudes, they seem glib because they've been said to death. But a lot of them are around because we know they're the right thing to do, but we just can't make ourselves do them consistently, especially. It's hard out there dating. The standards by which we should date, we kind of all know, but it's hard to implement them because of the quality out there and the lack of social help. Like we were talking about this yesterday in the discussion. Back in the day, two people who didn't know each other would be chaperoned by society's conduct. So when you go on a date, the guy has to, say please and thank you and pull the chair out and pay for dinner and blah, 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 and be kind and polite. That would make a girl feel safe. And she would have an attitude with the guy and say please and thank you and respect the guy and blah, blah, blah. Now you're turning up to dates with no rules. You're not chaperoned. You don't know how to speak. You don't know if the person across the table will find any word offensive. No one feels safe, guys or girls. Yet everyone is desperate to feel safe with the other person. And everyone's got a suit of armor around them and their sword out ready to stab you should you, leave any room to sort of be hurt. Paul says, what do you think of dating a much younger woman? For me, it's as long as you're honest about the compatibility between the two of you. It gets to a point where, like, how young? If you're 70 and she's 18, unless you're a very young 70-year-old, or maybe your interests, and she's, for instance, say you're a 70-year-old who's fairly intelligent and you like reading, and she's a hyper-intelligent 18-year-old who writes, and you can bridge the gap somewhere in between, maybe. But there needs to be enough compatibility. But if it's just the physical, biology and all that stuff, no, it's not going to last. It'll last short term, but it won't last long term. I don't think. I think it's all about how you act and how aware you are of what you're doing in that moment. How honest you're being too. Not trying to justify your emotional biases intellectually. As I said, I'm good at doing that and I have to stop myself. I can intellectually and lexically justify myself with a lot of smart sounding BS to just do whatever I feel like doing anyway. But the trick is to catch yourself and really do what you know to be right. When the hot chick isn't in front of you, when you're talking amongst the guys, when you're writing on paper about what you really believe, what your stoic standards are, this is the kind of girl for me. I will say no to this. I will say yes to this. This is what I need. And then when you're in front of chicky poo, you're a blubbering mess. The spine's been taken out of you and you just do and say anything she wants. And then later on you blame women. That's you. I know it's hard. It's a simple concept, but it's hard to do. Roman says, I do know the answer though. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Yep. The house is in shambles and it's falling around him. I don't know. I know I can't do any more though. Yeah, Roman's talking about his friend who still lives. He's an older guy living with his mum who's got a terminal illness. Yeah, there's only so much you can do. Meta Head Mike says, I don't like Richard Cooper. He says a lot of true things, but I don't think he's a particularly nice person. Again, we mentioned this yesterday in the conversation, not Richard Cooper, but does it really matter who's saying something to you if it's true? Again, I have nothing against Richard. It's kind of like, does he say true things? If he does, then I can't fault what he says. You may not like him as a person. Who cares? You don't have to be his friend. I'm pretty sure he doesn't need you as his friend. You know, I'm not being rude. He doesn't need me as his friend either. So if someone actually says true constructive stuff, like what does it matter? We might be jealous that he's got more money than us. I don't know what it is. We need to be realistic, but has he actually said anything that's wrong? Or do we just not like the way he says it, or we don't like the ambience? But again, you know, I've come down from my high horse and really tried to pay attention to what the message is, and is it true? Is it constructive? Or is it just someone that I don't like them, or I don't like their accent, or I don't know about them, there's a question mark? Who cares? They're not asking you to be their friend. They're not asking you to help them move a couch. I learned a lesson over the last couple of years watching content creators that I was like resistant to. It's like, well, you might not like them. Sometimes it's jealousy, but do they actually say anything that's wrong? No. So again, how can we better ourselves, guys? I can tell you, like, letting go a lot of the bitterness has helped. You know what the nice thing, it's happened once or twice over the last couple of years where I've learned to come down off me thinking that I'm absolutely right and the way I think is right and whatever. It's not just in my social situations, that letting go of the armor allows you to have a conversation you would not have been able to have a conversation with that person prior to that depth, because you've both got some sort of armor on and you can feel it and you can sense it through your conversation. So whether or not I like the person, but if they're saying stuff that interests me, that keeps people's interest, you know, why are they popular? Initially, when I saw the buzz of Andrew Tate, I was the same as everyone else. I saw the ego with the little clips. But as I watch more and more, I can't see anything wrong with this guy's perspective at all. I can't. You can disagree with his attitude. You can point to certain things, what he said here and there. But holistically, I can't really point to much. I think on aggregate, he's helping men much more. It's the same reason why everyone came down on Jordan Peterson. You can point to a lot of personal stuff. They say with Jordan Peterson, oh yeah, but look at his personal life. He's not perfect. Yeah, but does it matter about him, or what? If he says what is true, what does it matter? Jordan Peterson resonated with a lot of people, especially guys, because he said what was true, what people were too afraid to courageously come out and say, and be willing to die on that hill. Andrew Tate as well. It's the courage that's missing. They are courageous enough to be honest and say what is right. And a lot of them do what is right. Andrew Tate, as far as I can see, does more. He practices what he preaches, and he does more of what is right compared to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has less of an ego and is much more, what's the word? Not friendly. What's that word? Where you can kind of get along with everyone else. I can't think of it. But sort of, they're two different kinds of people. But is what they say wrong? And I would say no. They are great examples of how this thing here, how do you want to be? They are great examples of the how. August Lyon says, I agree with human. Find purpose in the process and design a good lifestyle for yourself. It's more important than your goals. Yes. Constantly redecorate your life. Like your, not bad metaphor, but you know what I mean. Your personal space, adjust your furniture, clean your room, as Jordan Peterson says, wash your clothes, constantly keep the hygiene there. Maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. Don't just purchase new. And certainly don't purchase what's in fashion. Quasimandias says, funny that you are going here with funny that you are going here with your material. I was doing exactly the same on my channel. I have gotten much better at getting what I want. I've put 100 people in boxes. I've put 1,000 people in boxes. This was Quasimandias saying this. It'd be interesting to have a conversation to you about this. Like, what we've learnt being very clever in the between, you know, the 5-year the 5-year version of us prior to where we are now. And that's something I've mentioned. Say you go on a date, everyone makes mistakes, but can you hear humility with the person? Can they talk openly about how they were wrong? I mentioned this for the guys that are still dating. Ask a girl what is her worst quality. See if she has an answer, or if she looks at you perplexed. It says a lot about the person who doesn't think they can improve or have ever been wrong. Gigadolph says, fellow Aussie here, since you're not a travel guy, how do you feel about your dating pool of Australian ladies? I think the dating pool here is fairly awful. It's why I gave up a couple of years ago. So I did a couple of years ago. This was prior to the lockup situation. I kind of had enough. And I just took myself off all the dating sites. And it wasn't temporarily. It wasn't like a 1-week detox where people do it on social media. This was like, I'm done. This is just shut off. I am like, it's kind of like, you know, when you decide to move home. That's it. I put my house on the market. I've ordered the van. I'm leaving, and I moved into a different place. That's how I was. I took everything off the market, and then I found someone afterwards when I wasn't looking, which really annoys me because you know the cliche, when you don't look, that's when it happens. And the dumbest people say that, and then I had to nod my head and begrudgingly go, mm-hmm. But yeah, I did a couple of years ago. I stopped looking. But the quality of Australian women is just, look, just in the West, not just Australia, I'd say it'll be similar in Canada, America, UK, Australia. They're all, let me just be charitable and say the degree of empathy amongst the average Western woman is inversely proportional to their entitlement, and their entitlement is through the roof. Their entitlement today, what they want compared to what they give, is they should be on meds or in a mental asylum. Their attitude. They shouldn't be running around the streets, let alone dating. Quasimandias says, if you deeply want the world to be a better place and to move forward, being a constructive individual can be very satisfying and makes losses bearable. Yeah, generate. It's not just be the person you want to be the example. That's true. But when you take a lot more conscious generation of what you want, like your little bubble, these are the friends I've got. These are the words I want to say. These are the kind of women I want to date. It's not just what woman picks me and I'm grateful to have someone. It's not kind of a PUA style talk to yourself like you're the prize. It's not you're the prize. It's what do you want? How do you want to be? There's two people in a relationship. Like if you really want a relationship, you care about the tennis match, the cycle of two people. It's not just what Pumpkin wants, and it's a one-way street of her. It's what you want too. A great thing I needed to remind myself of that helped me in those moments in my 30s was whenever I'd feel that way, confronted by a woman, her shaming me, wanting what she wanted in a relationship, and I felt compelled just to say yes. It's kind of like trying to douse a fire with a bucket of water. I would stop and remind myself, hey, there's two people here. I don't care how much he's bitching and complaining like a 5-year-old. I exist here as well. It's not just what you want. 50% you, 50% me. Sometimes I'll give you more, but if you demand 100%, like I'll give you 0 until you grow up. Remind yourself that there's two people. Relate to the world in a symbiotic way, not as a one-way street. This whole, it's your world, your frame. Yeah, get a doll. You'll be happy doing that. I'm serious. For guys who have had enough of women, you'll be much happier. You'll be able to have that one-way street, and you won't have to deal with any of that. But if you want an actual real-life reciprocal relationship, treating a woman like a pet on a leash where she has to stay in your frame no matter what, or you won't feed Fido, it's not something I want to do. Just the guy says, just to clarify, I said as long as they don't pay a too high price, let people enjoy what they want. If you wait for compatibility, that may never happen. Yeah, I agree. If that's what you're saying, just a guy. Look, I'm not being sort of acerbic towards you or anything like that. But I don't think you should wait for compatibility. I really think, I don't think I know that relating in life is a skill. It's not something you wait around for. For me, that's again, I'm going to rub people the wrong way. Think about how you're operating. If you're waiting for the universe in Oprah style fashion to come to you, be careful how you talk to yourself as a guy, what works for a guy. Are you talking Oprah-esque fashion in terms of your own spirituality and philosophy? Are you waiting for choices to come your way, or are you generating them? Are you making them happen like a guy? The more I generate what I want, how I want to live, my yeses and my nos, that doing from a guy's perspective gives you more control over outcomes. Women are the ones that want bouquets of flowers thrown at them. Women want love given to them, and they don't want to give anything back. Be careful that we're not wanting things the way women want them. Because, and I'm not saying it's all our fault, the marketing out there pushes a woman's philosophy. Even the spiritual side, the time-honored mythopoetic sort of lessons and stuff, it's imbued by kind of BS feelings and sort of it just happens. Ask the universe and you'll get it. No. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. Make sure we're not trying to generate our reality like a woman does. Musashi. Yes, not Masashi. Maybe it's my accent. I know, Musashi. Maybe I said it too quickly. Musashi Miyamoto. MGTOW by Logic. I was commenting on him saying that you're painting a target on your back by approaching things the way I might be suggesting. He says he means that cultivating a virtual life may also be my process and my goal, but it also sparks jealousy in others, aka lonely at the top, I suppose. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Jealous people will see the target on your back if you're trying to live a really good life and, live by your own ethics. August Line says, Rich Cooper is a fine exception. He randomly attacks MGTOW for clicks sometimes. Yeah, I don't really watch enough of him to know about that. In passing, what I've seen, and I've seen him say a lot of true things. I don't know about the politics though. Yeah. It was the same with, I remember back in the day, people told me, why are you having a conversation with Paul Elam? I've always gotten along with Paul Elam. I don't know much about the politics and the people he's attacked and stuff. And also, I know that in the past he's sort of badmouthed MGTOW as well. But for me, it's like, if a person is polite to me and if I can get along with him, I don't care what they think of politics so much, as though I will have a conversation with a girl power chick as long as she can be civil. And I'm not sort of saying that that Paul Elam's equivalent to the FE eminists out there. But yeah, I don't really care about anyone's politics too much, other than how they can speak to me and how civil they can be as a person. In fact, I don't want to talk in an echo chamber all the time. I don't mind talking in echo chambers where a person's got a different point of view because they're talking, their reference point is their own lived experience, empirical experience. But if it's just spitting out memes from the Bible of this pocket of the manosphere or this pocket of girl power, like, I'm not interested, because all they're going to be is a broken record. And I try my best, although a lot of people will disagree. They say I produce the same kind of content all the time. I try in real time to be constantly producing a different record every time I chew on similar ideas. Feral Android says, Cooper shames men who don't agree with him. I can't really stand men who shame other men. Look, me either. Like I said, I don't know enough and I don't watch enough of Richard Cooper. Karu will probably say I'm just being my usual balanced, polite self. But yeah, unless Richard says something about me and I see it, then I'll say, yeah, okay, don't like him. I can create a defined view of him. But if he's just got ideas about groups and things, like, everyone's allowed to have an opinion. I don't care. I'm not saying I agree with him shaming other men, though. If he does that, I wouldn't agree with it. But yeah, if it's true, I can't respect that. MGTW by Logic says, Peterson is a good example of how you can be right and still lose. His daughter went off the rails. Again, he's not in control of his daughter any more than a lot of these guys can control women in their frame. He's trying his, he's failed with his minor addictions. But if he's not controlling himself, yeah, that's where the responsibility lies. But really, whatever his daughter's going to do, you can try the best you can do as a parent. But what are you going to do if your daughter's just wired in a way and she runs across friends that run her off the rails and turn her into a life that it's harder to protect your daughter from? He continues, you can be right, but other people don't care. They will still do for them, not you. Yep. Or focus on controlling yourself, and with the leftovers, try and, help others. But you can't really be blamed. Look, there's degrees. How much control and autonomy does a dog have? If it's your dog, if it's on a leash, if you're responsible for it and it sort of attacks someone, you're responsible for your dog, because the dog can't speak English. It doesn't really know ethics and morals that well. But if it's your child and it's acting like a dog, I think there's more accountability. And again, Jordan Peterson's daughter, she ruined her own life, and you could argue the guy's life of the person she left. But how much does it affect other people? How much has she taken from other people, strangers and people who didn't ask for it? I don't know. I'm not excusing her, but again, a person can't control everything. For me, it's like if someone really doesn't control themselves and then they're trying to control everything else, like a lot of people online, they want to fix the world, but they don't fix their own life. Their own apartment's got empty pizza boxes lying around it. They're overweight. They don't do anything in their lives. They're just kind of really lazy, but they want to be really disciplined, over the horizon and save the whales or fix poverty or whatever. But their life doesn't reflect any of it. Fix yourself, and then with that, go forward, I think. That's the best thing you can do. If you can't fix your own world, what makes you think you're going to... It's like, who's going to hire you? It's like, would you hire a personal trainer for a gym if this guy is morbidly obese, even if he knows everything in theory? There's a degree to which, you're being realistic, and then where you can give someone the benefit of the doubt. Metalhead Mike says, Human, how do you feel about Kanye West's interview with Piers Morgan? I feel nothing because I haven't watched it. I have no idea. I don't watch a lot of TV, let alone sensationalized like entertainment sort of stuff, like celebrities and things like that. Johnny Cool says women became narcissists by default. They wear their they wear their traits. They don't wear them like real narcissists, and it is as bad in many ways. Could you hear the motorbike go past my house? Okay, we've been going for an hour and 11 minutes. Just paying attention to the time. Feral Android says, foreign women treat their local men the same. They treat you better because you have more money. Interesting, perhaps. Melee Nico says, women need counseling, not relationships. Yeah. Yeah, I think they kind of use relationships to sort of work on themselves. They're not working on themselves. They project what they need to work on themselves onto their boyfriends, and they just keep the cycle going with each new relationship. Women are masters of projection, but yeah, I agree. Most women need counseling before they're ready to get into relationships. To be fair, a lot of men too, but vastly more women. When it comes to relationships, this is a woman's world more than it's ever been. Boffin says, yes, human men must brave the world to obtain their desires. Women expect it all served up on a plate. Yeah, the amount of women, when you ask them, what do you, you want a great man, what do you offer? And to them, it's like, well, I show up. Why isn't he grateful? It's like, okay, can I just show up? No, you can't. You have to make her laugh. You have to have charisma. You have to do something. You have to impress. Women think they're impressing guys by you being grateful that, the celebrity showed up for you. The celebrity showed up for the fan. Why aren't you grateful? That's a woman's point of view. Most women out there. Craig says, there's a lot of female channels on YouTube supporting MGTOW. What do you think of those? I've noticed this in the last couple of years. Isn't it interesting? Just prior to the lockup that happened a couple of years ago, and now since this scarcity, since we've been reminded of survival, all of a sudden there's a lot of these women now, oh, the party's over. You know what? Like, we need to kind of think about our future. Yeah, I think it's funny. Look, I said, look, better late than never for the next generation. I feel happier for the guys now, the younger guys. They've got a better environment simply because there's a lot more women supporting being fair in relationships. It's not so much that these women are supporting just men and they're forgetting themselves. They're talking about being more fair. Like, I've been discussing that a lot more. And I think everyone should. You want to have a better life. You want to relate to people better. Think fairly and more reciprocally and more realistically. Yeah, it was just getting out of hand just before the lockup. It was just, I'm going to take. I'm going to create reality. I'm not a male. I'm not a female. Let me just make up a name and force people to use it and get offended if they don't, and play this everyone was just gaslighting everyone else. Everyone, men, women, politics, the rainbow community, like just everyone, had an individual perspective, and they were offended that you didn't read their mind, and they were and they were gaslighting everyone to shame everyone, that shame on you that you can't guess what magical creature I am and that you're not bowing to me because I'm special. Like, I think everyone just got tired. I'm glad the power cord got pulled out. Um, Quasiman Dice says, think about mentors like a musician does. Listen to those you want to emulate, not those that advise. You end up riffing what you listen to. Listen to what you want to be. Yes. And practice. There's a lot of people that listen to a lot of music. They'll say, oh, music is my life. I can't listen to music. But they're consumers of things rather than creators. Ask yourself, are you someone who likes to watch movies or do you make movies? Do you just like to listen to music or do you have a guitar? Do you play piano? Do you sing? Do you create or do you just consume someone else's stuff? Like all these people who are foodies. It's like, no, you like to eat. Do you cook? No. Shut up. Mr. Highway, how are you, man? He says, hold masculine frame. I can't believe I ever believed that garbage. And isn't it great to have the humility to admit when you're wrong as well? Like guys again, look, Gigadolph just said to me, what do you say to those who say you're bitter? I don't care. You look back on videos, yeah, I was a lot more bitter back then. I said things that I'd say differently now. I refined what I believe. Some things I don't believe anymore. Some things I have more of a nuance about. Some things I've turned the tables on. I'm bitter. On what subject? If you're talking about what a particular ex did for me, did to me, that was a betrayal and that was objectively wrong, yeah, there's a little bit of bitter there. But I don't care, but that was wrong, and that's where blame should be laid. But I'm not holding on to it, but it's a lesson to be learnt, and that was wrong. Similarly, there are times where I was wrong. I should have done things better. I was too blunt. Also, what do you say to those that say you're bitter? I don't care. What's the saying? Don't take criticism from those you would never go to for advice. If I don't know them, it's like I take it with a grain of salt. If it's objective, if it's an objective, constructive statement, yeah, I'll take it away if it's something that they're kind of right about. Like, it's something to think about, buddy. Like, yeah, it's nice. It's not nice to chew on your comment, but what you said is, it's not wrong. I need to take it on board. You're bitter. It's kind of just an emotional response designed to elicit. It's designed to elicit a reaction from you. It's almost like trying to push a button that should. It's like, when the doctors like tap your knee with that little hammer and your knee goes up. That's what that is. Andy Baby says, Human, do you discuss men and careers in this channel? The former, not the latter so much. I touch on, making sure you choose the career that's like aligned with you and what you want to do. And if it's really what you want to do, it's not being forced on others, and it's not just to get women or to get a pat on the back from social validation from women or society. But I'm not a career channel. I'm more of a ethics, choice, men making the right decisions, being fair, relationships in general. That's the kind of channel I am. And the relationships are the relationships with your choices, whether it's about women, jobs, or whatever you want to do. Let's go through some of the other comments that were left under the recent videos here. Under the recent video of what I want most, David P says, I've always struggled with my weight. In 2017, I started going to the gym and made it to the priority until the recent lockup started. I felt and look great now that I've dealt with the various issues, my mother's death and my new health challenges. I'm struggling to get back into the habit. I'm making different choices and I'm lacking the discipline of my earlier self. When I ask myself why, I don't have any answers, just excuses. Hey, at least you're thinking about it, David. Most people don't. They're not real. They make an excuse, a very smart, intellectual one, and I've done this a lot in the past, and it allows you to stay in the safe place, and then later on you're down on yourself as well. A lot of our smart excuses can alleviate ourselves momentarily, but they don't really help us move forward where we don't have to try again to intellectually excuse ourselves. Ted1775, again relating to this video, what I want the most. He says, yes, we men need to speak up and say no more often. Addition minus subtraction. Yeah. I think the first process is knowing what you want by rejecting what you don't. Because so much of the world tries to take from you and you say yes to everything. So you accept a lot. But the point at which you can say no and learn to be discerning in what you say yes to and what you accept, that's a big step. Johnny Derp says, if someone wants to soar to the heights and live or love as much as they can, I wish them the best of luck. I'm much more of the mindset of Daedalus than Icarus. For those of you who don't know, the story of Daedalus and Icarus is Daedalus, the father, advised Icarus, the son, when making his wings, not to soar too high to the sun, but to pick the middle ground. Not to go too low or he'd get consumed by the waves, not to go too high or the sun would scorch him. And his son Icarus didn't listen to his father and he flew as high as he wanted to do. The sun melted the wax on the wings. He came plummeting down to earth and perished. So the father's advice, Daedalus, was listen to your elders, pick the sensible middle ground, but, rise up as much as you can without being reckless, which is, I'm trying to advise similar. Do what you want, push yourself, but don't be reckless. Don't jump out of the plane without a parachute. Jump out of that plane with a professionally packed parachute that you've double and triple checked, if that's what you really want to do. Johnny Derp continues, soar a bit, but keep in mind you have a destination which is more important than the view from the clouds. I might be a bit more nuanced than your last sentence, because I'm not as destination focused, but I agree with the sentiment. Prince Revolver says about this video here, God, this is hard, where I kept my mouth shut and I kept hoping for the best, which is what a lot of guys do and what I did for a long time. Prince Revolver says, the biggest power trip a man can give a woman is to let her undermine you. That's a high she will never want to come down from, especially if she's full of insecurities. Yes, any one of us who are full of insecurities overcompensate with a massive ego. You look at sort of the people that are falling apart and they latch on to the confident words of Tony Robbins and they try and mouth his words as though they're him. I am the best, I'm the best, I'm the king, I'm the king. If you're not the king, you won't act like the king. Tony Robbins, he believes he is. That's why it works for him. But if someone's insecure, you give them power, the power corrupts. And especially with the woman, when you allow her to undermine you and she's insecure, she will destroy you in the relationship, because most women are looking to be made to feel safe. But a woman with insecurities, you give her leadership, she will destroy you, the relationship herself, and she won't be at fault. It's because, wow, he let me drive and I can't drive. And I love putting my foot to the floor. Shadow Ghost, thank you for the super chat donation. He says, great day at the sunny coast. It's raining cats and dogs. Such is this life of perception. Yes, thanks, Shadow Ghost. Any of you guys want to ask me a question, super chat me or add 3 yellow or orange emojis. To keep it simple, 3 yellow or orange circles. Then I know it's a question to me. This poll, I asked my members, what's the biggest obstacle for you in getting what you want in life? This was really interesting and really encouraging. that I just put up with a few. And like I kind of knew that people who watch my content will lean more in this direction, but I'm very happy that most people lean towards the biggest obstacle in getting what you want in life is yourself. Not society, laws, women's expectation, the luck of your parents. These are all things out of your control. It's the difference between an internal and external locus of control and your willingness to make the best of what you got. If you don't believe you have any choice in turning the dials, if you think that you need to have permission, then yeah, I'm encouraged by this poll. Raphael says, I had an absent father who left home when I was 15, and I never had a masculine figure to look up to. Mum raised me to be a good boy. Guess what happened to me when I started dating and working? In my opinion, the biggest obstacle in life was the lack of masculine mentor. It took me a long time to figure out all of this by myself. Yeah, it's a similar story to mine, Raphael. You're telling a similar blueprint to mine. My father was great, but he really didn't mentor me. He was in his own little world. He did his own thing. I really wasn't around him much, and he didn't really teach me a lot. And my mum taught me a lot. She kind of mentored me the best way she can, but a woman can't mentor a guy. There's no way through experience she can mentor a guy in a necessary way. My dad can, from his point of view, you know, I never got, be careful of women in this way, love them, but these boundaries as a guy, you know, you might, you know, treat a woman well, but I never got any of that. I just got the perspective of a woman, which for a guy going out there dating is terrible. And it's not my mother's fault, but a woman can't mentor her son into how to be a man, how to relate to women, how to stand up for himself, how to set boundaries in relationships and things like that. She can try structurally and have a good guess because she's trying to protect her son, but it's chalk and cheese compared to what a father does. Not only has he got real life experience, he cares really about his son. Like I'll talk to you, to another version of myself by talking to you guys and mentoring you guys like a, you know, a lowercase f father figure if you so choose. But there's nothing compared to your own father doing it. You are going to get 100% distilled into his son in the language that his son understands because he understands his dad. And that's the best kind of protection, boundaries, and mentorship you'll get as a guy in terms of dating. And no surprise with me, my life, I make great decisions and I do what I want and I'm confident and I maintain strong boundaries with everything in my life, even when I was young, because my parents collectively raised me well. But when it came to women, it was like Jekyll and Hyde. Women walked all over me because I didn't get that mentorship directly from my father. And I'm not bad-mouthing my father. My father was great, but I didn't get that from him. And that's just me being honest. And guys need that when it comes to dating and women. Yes, you can say, well, you know what's right, but the mentorship from a father is something that's, if anyone but women are saying, well, you're wrong, I don't care. You don't know what you're talking about. From a guy's point of view, mentorship from an elder, especially your father, your grandfather, it is invaluable. It is the only area where you're going to get speared by the truth when it comes to men and women by someone who's had experience and who wants the best for the person he cares about, his younger son or grandson or nephew or whatever. It's like finding religion from someone, you know? It's like being talked to by God, rather than being talked to by someone who heard from his cousin that this is the right thing to do. That's what women try to do to the best of their abilities, even mothers. My mother tried, but she can't mentor me about women and relationships like my father ought to. Really good comment. That really made me reflect on my past. Feral Android said, the obstacle is the way. Not sure how to answer this because I've gotten everything I wanted when it was in my power to get. My problem is I run out of wants. So finding contentment and gratitude for what I have, who I am, is the hard part for me. Guess this is a problem for middle-aged men, yes. Process, process, process. Make the process the goal. Make the process what you want. So it's always alive and it's always interesting. Don't control your woman, control yourself. There's the interesting adventure. and the adventure that'll never leave you. Musashi Report, I pronounced it right this time, says, I have an observation. Humanity perhaps needs a full circle with all the technology and info from past. Can't compare to this era. Something as simple as gender issues can have great impact. Depopulated, maybe this is a good thing. Yeah, there's good things where the world's overcrowded, depopulation perhaps, protecting the environment a bit, all that sort of stuff. There's positive consequences, but in terms of how we treat each other, I think we can all agree we're not treating each other well socially, intersexually. T-Dog says, human, off topic. Any idea what happened to feral male from New Zealand? Haven't seen him in a while. He always had some good insights. I haven't heard from him either. I don't know. I don't really keep in contact with many guys here in the comments, aside from the people that come in Discord and I chat with them there. There are guys that continually message in the comments that, because of the intelligent comments, I'm always noticing them. But yeah, like feral male, I haven't seen him in a little while, but I don't really know what he's doing. That rant about fathers needs to be put in a time capsule. Well, actually, let me write it down, Mr. Highway. I might actually clip it out and make it a short or a reel. Just that little bit. No time like the present. Present. What time did I say it? It was like about 1 minute 20 into the stream. Gigadolf says, human, you say you don't want to father children, but from just hearing you now, is this channel not becoming some parental instinct? Perhaps. Look, objectively, I know I would have become a great father. I would have been a great father, but I've never wanted kids. But, I know I don't want kids. I would have resented the time and effort. Yes, everyone says you think you don't, but when you do it, you do. But what if I don't? It's kind of like when you pick a woman to marry and you haven't thought about it. You need to want it. And then you're stuck with a woman you didn't really choose maturely and intentionally. Then you have to stick with it because you made the choice. You want to be sort of moral about things. It's the same with, like, I want the child. I want to be a father. I don't want to cross my fingers and think that I'll be grateful later. It's like your mother telling you to do something that you don't want to do, and then later on, magically, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't want to do it stubbornly, but my mother was right. A lot of times my parents weren't right. A lot of times they were. But with having a kid, there's no going back. And I'd like to think I'm a bit more responsible than that. But yeah, I know I would have made, and objectively speaking, with my values, I think I would have made a really good father compared to other guys out there that are just sleepwalking with life. They're walking hard-ons, they drink too much and drive too fast. And just because they've popped out a few kids and they've got a few divorces under their belt, the fact that they've fathered kids, they think they know more than me. I beg to differ, but objectively speaking, based on my values and how I've consistently been, I think I would have raised a good son. Daughter, I don't know. I think I would have raised a good daughter as well, but she would have been frustrated me a bit more because I would have kept her in line a bit more. But with a supportive wife that's on the same page with me, she could have kept her in line more than me. Girls always rebel against their fathers unless they're, I don't know. I'm speculating here anyway. This is all theoretical BS because I've never chosen it. But yeah, I'd say I'd be a good father. And yeah, in a way, my channel has been mentorship for those guys who have not had fathers maybe. Again, a lot of this is for the younger version of me, my channel. The things I've learned, some of the wisdom and knowledge I've learned the hard way, imparted on someone that wish I would have had this mentorship. It's coming secondhand through my channel. You don't know me. I would have loved to have had this through someone in my life, like an elder. But such is life. Yeah, Mr. Highway says, I'd rather regret not having kids than to regret having them. Yes. I can sympathize with these guys that would really want to have a family, but they're being very cautious because it's very hard. You can't just pick any woman. And then the regret later on that you never married or you were a bit too cautious. I've never had that chip to really want kids. To me, it's kind of neutral. Nothing against it. Objectively, species speaking, it's the right thing to do, especially if you want it. Boffin says, human, if you had a kid and decided you didn't want it, you could sell it to Karu. Yeah. Yeah, but then Karu would need to sell off all these keyboards and mice and gadgets like I would to sort of fund a child. Would he be happy though? Anyway, this was interesting. I'm encouraged by this comment. What's been your biggest obstacle in getting what you want in life? And most people would agree, you're the biggest obstacle. Whatever you choose to do. JJ says, men make the mistake of expecting women to be fair and reasonable. And I said, true. We shouldn't expect women to be fair and reasonable. We should insist that they be fair and reasonable, but not expect it. And if they aren't, then we don't choose them. We tell them to F off. We leave. We don't accommodate them. We don't treat them like our daughters. So don't expect women to be fair and reasonable. Insist that they are. And even though guys say, oh, human, you're delusional. Women aren't logical. Yeah, most women aren't. You don't pick them. But if you believe all women are like that and that's all we have to choose from, so basically relationships are crossing your fingers, good luck. You'll become one of the statistics. I'm not saying that me or you or like some of the other guys who are still want to date won't be statistics, but the chances are much less because I'm trying not to sleepwalk and accept that I've got no choice in how I conduct myself or which women I pick. You know, my only barometer shouldn't be pretty, biology, make babies. I know that's the unconscious drive, but if you watch my channel, if you're responsible and you want to be proud of the choices you make, I think these are the people that say, well, I don't have to make choices because it's biology. I don't have to make choices because all women are like this. You don't want to make choices. I think that's it. All women are like that. Government, the divorce laws, like that. Yeah, that's true. 100% true. Make choices that push the risk of that happening further and further away. Make a choice. I think a lot of people who are just saying things are the way they are and there's no point trying, you don't want to make a choice for the better. Again, do what you want. This is how I insist on being. And I like my life. You can call me delusional. It's a funny thing. Human only thinks he's happy. These are the same kind of guys you'll say, here's Joe over here, all right? He's happily married. He's got 3 kids. He loves being married. He loves his life. He loves his job. And you talk to Joe and Joe's confirming it. And it's like, yeah, I love my life. And then you'll go, yeah, Joe only thinks he's happy. It's like, what are you, stupid? Everything's telling you this is true. But you're saying, well, she could divorce him. He's not really happy. He only thinks he's happy. She's only making him happy or only making him feel like he's happy, but she's playing him. Don't know what to say to people that insist that things are always going to work out badly. Insist that you can never make your life better. Musashi, thank you again for the super chat. He says, and these men who want to be extreme skeptical will taste the blade of fire as they deny other sciences they call magical thinking, woo-woo. They know nothing of esoteric sciences, just another reality. Yeah, now the danger also is with psychology becoming more and more popular, especially amongst women, as pseudoscience. They think it's science, it's only opinion. Um, that kind of Oprah BS meme stuff is coming through the back door and making people feel like they're being scientific because they can quote um, philosophical statements, but they're not really true. So, yeah, it's even more reason why we should pay a lot of attention to how we think and how we speak. Let's be much more practical about our philosophy, guys. Just like the Stoics, that never goes out of fashion. Guys love the Stoics. Very practical advice, very practical, poetic, philosophical advice about what the right thing to do is, how simple life should be, and the choices you should make, about knowing what's right and what's wrong and choosing what's right, what's right, knowing what you can control, what you can't control, and focusing on what you can control. So it's amazing. Some of these guys that are ultra scientific and say all women are like this and whatever, those same guys will point to the Stoics as being true. It's like, idiot. The Stoics' core philosophy is there are things in life you can control, there are things in life you can't control. You focus on the things you can control. I know most women are like the way they are, but it's the lack of being able to say no to women is the problem. The wrong kind of women. But she's hot, human. Mr. Highway says, human, you're on fire tonight. Yeah, it must be the coffee. Look, you know what? I knew today was going to be a good stream by the feedback from the videos I made, and also because like I felt really good making these videos. They were really I was really soberly focused. Sometimes you make videos where you're enjoying them, they're fun, but they're just kind of conversational, but an interesting topic. But today, this week, like I really was energized in these topics and I was really focused on them, and the feedback was really focused, and I wanted to make a mid-stream, which I did a few days ago, related to them. And I had a lot of really good comments as well. The Rift, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. He says, I look at statistics and stats average out of demographics. If you look at stats such as where the woman makes more, then subtract that from the situations you will participate, then don't, from that situation, you will participate, then don't I improve my odds? Yes. When people just look at the stats, I agree. If I read what you're saying correctly, the Rift, people will say, well, half of marriages end and women initiate nearly 80% of the divorces. That's generally true. But take a look at the quality of people that are getting blindly married biologically. They're just driven and they think, oh, well, pretty, give it a shot. It's all about luck, compared to the people that more intentionally make these choices. It's the same with business. Business odds are even worse. 9 out of 10, 90% of businesses fail. 10% succeed. But still a lot of guys try and create their business because of the control. So if you try and intentionally pick women better and not go in blindly being sold a marriage, so to speak, by society and women, you reduce your odds. Men still find businesses attractive much more than relationships, but relationships, the odds of it working out, even by luck, are better than a business. But men still go to make businesses. What does that tell you? This argument about all women are the same and every marriage will fail is rubbish, because the chances of your business failing is worse. You're going to be more bankrupt the more you put in. But the stats touch you less the more intentionally and skillfully you go about the endeavor of business or women or relationships, and that goes to being critical about where you invest your time and energy and with whom. Okay, let's wrap up this stream because I'm apparently on fire and I'm going to burn out. I need some more. I need to retain some energy for the rest of Sunday. Let's see. Let's have a look at the comments here. Johnny Derp says, I absolutely made this mistake in my marriage. Yeah, what? You can barely read it. Why don't you just look at my big ugly head? Johnny Derp says, I absolutely made this mistake in my marriage. Rather than seek the heart of the disagreements we were having, I decided to batten down the hatches and wait out the storm. Yeah, this was in the video here about you keeping your mouth shut as a guy and then you hope for the best. It never works. This is the cause of much, like nearly 99% of the failed relationships, marriages, the embarrassment looking back at you wish you would have woken up or you wish you would have said something earlier. Johnny Derp continues. He said, I decided to batten down the hatches and wait out the storm. You say, you're in this for the long haul, right, John? Then just be quiet and don't rock the boat. Was the sort of thing I would tell myself. A good question to ask myself is why I did this. Yes. Part of it goes back to childhood and seeing the example set by my parents. My parents were both volatile, and the sounds of raised voices, objects being thrown and broken, and physical violence was something I was all too familiar with. More than anything, I didn't want this outcome in my marriage. I neglected my own responsibility to take the rudder and steer my relationship because I was afraid of emulating my parents. I mistook silence for peace. This is very important. I mistook silence for peace. In the end, he continues, I think the capacity to acknowledge our faults and to at least try to learn from them is what helps men improve their outcomes in the long run. Yes, yes, yes. We emulate a lot of our reactions and reflexes from our youth, whether we want to or not. If we were treated badly, we can look for relationships where we're treated badly by the woman. That's why we stay. And if a woman treats us fairly, we might think it's boring or like, you know what, I'm not feeling it. Or this other chick I'm dating is more exciting. So revisiting the triggers of youth is helpful in knowing how you react, but not blaming your past and not fixing anything. Johnny Derp, thank you for the super chat donation. He said for the asbestos underwear fund. Musashi's report says, yeah, Oprah BS, stoic is like the Tao. That's why I said that mentorship from a man, stoicism, compared to mentorship from a woman, trying to teach a man, is like Oprah trying to tell a man. And she's ultimately self-referential as a woman. So she's going to try to teach you to be a man in a way that women would appreciate. Not trying to teach you to be a man, to be a self-respecting man. That's what your father, grandfather, elder will teach you. They just want the best for you. And they feel good about giving the best for you with nothing in return. They're not going to get anything out of it other than feeling good that they protected someone they cared about. They protected and looked out for a younger version of themselves. Women at most will look out for a younger version of themselves, but it's not going to be you as a guy. That guy, Pete, you refused to invite to gatherings. He says under this video, I think. No, under this video about keeping your mouth shut and hoping for the best. He says, never keep your mouth shut about things you really care about. That's such a short comment, but it cuts to the heart of everything. Never keep your mouth shut about things that are really important to you, the things you hold as virtues, the things that are non-negotiable. If you care about them, that's the worst thing that guys feel ashamed of. Afterwards, when you gave and kept your mouth shut and did everything Pumpkin wanted, tried to make her happy, you stand by, I was the nice guy, I did everything for her. But she walked all over your non-negotiables, what you thought were your non-negotiables. And that's the shame guys feel. That's the destruction. Not so much that some chick stranger you met and tried to love left you. It's that you're embarrassed about yourself. If you didn't, because the thing is, if the person doesn't walk all over your values and doesn't cross your boundaries because they're respectful enough of another person not to even try, or to know where civil boundaries lie, or you enforce them and say, hey, and she's respectful enough to know it. But there's some girls that were raised right enough not to even approach it because they know what's rude. But once they cross it, because people without knowing will sometimes push the boundaries without, if they're not told no, they just keep going myopically in that direction because of momentum. Sometimes you need to say, hey, and it might not be intentional. That's how they were raised. Maybe they were raised in a volatile household where pushing and being rude and is just part of their lifestyle. So never shut your mouth about what you care about. That's a very important comment by Pete. Chris F says, I understand what you're saying, human, but what about the extreme situations? If you don't do X, Y, Z, you will never see your kids again. If you really love me, you will do X, Y, Z. You refuse, she takes you to court because you didn't meet her needs. I'm just curious how you would advise guys to navigate those potentially life-destroying moments for a lot of men. Chris, I think that guys debilitate themselves by always plucking out the worst case scenarios. And I'm saying they should be obvious. You can see those girls from an airplane. You don't go anywhere near them. They're the hot mess. So what I'm saying is you don't go out with women who are obviously train wrecks. Those women that do the worst of the worst, when you talk to the guys and say, well, when you were dating them in the honeymoon period, did she have anger issues? Was she impatient? Did she show a lack of empathy? Was she like very few of them say that she was like an angel, and then after the honeymoon, all of a sudden Jekyll and Hyde happened, right? Most of the time they just kind of sort of allowed this behavior to be swept under the rug and hope for the best. Like Johnny Depp was saying, you sweep it under the rug and you say, don't rock the boat. You're in it for the long haul. You have your principles and you say, no matter what, I'm going to be the great guy. So no, don't raise your standards above the person you're dealing with. Don't. So it's very easy to do nothing because you're worried about the extremes. But if you do your best to not pick the extremes, like I say, skydiving isn't about jumping out of a plane without a parachute. It's jumping out of a plane with a well-packed parachute as professionally as you can, and don't jump out of the plane before you've got the most amount of experience and when it's the right time and when you're doing things with your eyes wide open. If that's what you really want to do. If you don't really care about relationships, fine. But citing the worst case scenarios is like when we watch a current affair. We watch those TV shows like Cops and like where they show the worst of the worst. And we say, well, everyone's like that. It's like, no, they're the clownish examples of the worst kind of people in the world where no one would touch them if they were sensible. Too many guys are going for the hot mess that is advertising that extreme behavior. The amount of guys who are like genuinely unlucky to have a psycho that didn't exhibit any of those traits beforehand, and he still married the psycho and he still had kids, they are very few. I know there's a lot of dumb guys, just like, there's probably sillier women out there. But no, I just kind of believe that we just need to be responsible for more. We point out what's wrong, but stop kind of sitting there like a 5-year-old saying like, mummy needs to treat me well. How do I find the right mummy who will treat me well no matter what? We need to have relationships like adults. And I don't mean to discount your point, Chris. I know those things can happen. But if we believe we have no agency, then those things will happen more commonly. But if you insist that you have more agency, these things will happen to you much more rarely. This is what I think. And you can say it's just my subjective experience, but the more I've taken ownership of this stuff as I've gotten older, the less the stats apply to me, because I don't talk or choose the same thing as the typical guy who drives too fast and drinks too much and, can't wear protection because of like just emotionally, hormonally driven. Like, care about your choices. Like, I can't care about your life more than you do. Like, in the same way, we look at women who don't make smart choices. They just kind of bang the bad boy and they have multiple kids with different guys. And we look at them and go, you idiot, act responsible, make better choices, pick better guys. Same with us. I know the extremes can happen, but are you the kind of person who's interested enough in a lot of this stuff to push yourself away from these stats? The stats today, in today's clown world, apply to the clowns much more than it applies innocently to the righteous person that's blindsided by a very convincing narcissist or sociopath. I think they're rarer. Like, I've had experience with narcissists and sort of con women, and I can spot them much better through experience than most guys. I'm not saying I'm infallible, but anyway, August Lyon says, I've never shown any woman my true self for fear of being rejected. So even the 10 years I lived my life with my last girlfriend, every time she was around, I always felt like I had to put on the show, in quotation marks. But it's a very empty and hollow existence to always be for performing a role that isn't authentically you. Never again. Exactly. Be you, be you, be you. On a date, talk about whatever you want to talk about. Talk about whatever's important to you, like Pete mentioned. Who cares what the etiquette is? Who cares about, well, human, if you talk about that, you'll never get laid. I don't care. I want to get laid by someone I feel a bit safer with, not a bimbo airhead that tomorrow I don't know if the police are going to come knocking on my door because she feels a certain way. What advice would you be giving your son if you had a son about dating? Anyway, yeah, and look, under August Lyon's comment, which I agree with, like August Lyon, like he's one of the people's names I remember because he leaves very astute comments. Yeah, take responsibility. You don't want to live an empty, hollow existence by saying yes, dear, and putting on a show all the time and acting, because you don't feel like yourself. You feel empty. You feel lifeless. Your world is in black and white with no sound. You're desensitized. You're dehumanized. You're demoralized. And then in the comments, we have people that say, yes, but the alternative is forever being alone. I swear, give up then. Give up. Fine, do what you want. I'm not telling you to believe what you want to believe. You'll get exactly like that. The man who believes he can and the man who believes he can't are both right. And then David says, in response to this, you'll be forever alone if you don't do what women want. David, one of my members who's also astute, says, I'd rather be alone and happy than playing a role to appease someone else, which would make me miserable. Exactly. Guys are tired of not existing and being invisible. And then you got guys saying, well, if you don't do this, you won't get laid. As in, like, how much do women matter to you? Christ, do you exist even 5% in the picture? You know, there's a relationship. You know, when you picture a scene in bed banging a woman, do you actually even think you're there, or do you just see her with some guy? How do you do you exist at least a little bit in this equation? And then this same person responds, sure, but what do you do if you want kids? Again, it's the universal argument. Species, but kids, but laws, but divorces, but you can't trust her, but she could leave you, but you can't trust her. There's no guarantees. And I said, look, if I want kids, but I'm not meeting mother material out there, then it's better to stay single and lament being childless. After all, what life will the kids have, even if you want kids? What life will you have? Like, there are trade-offs. You can't get everything you want, but when you want what you want, you go about it the best way you can to get the best chances. If we're talking about logical statistics, you go about these things the right way, the way your father would tell you to go about things if he cared about you and he was intelligent. Go about things that way. Go about things the way a elder that you respect would want you to go about things. and you give yourself the best chance of doing what you want and getting what you want out of life. But sitting back and saying like, yeah, nothing I do is guaranteed to work, and one day we're all going to be buried, so what's the point? It's like, fine, okay, don't do anything. Like, I don't get anything out of making you have a happy life. Jeez, I'm trying to talk to you about having some sort of will. The Pulse comments in regards to this video about keeping your mouth shut. Men need to understand it is in a woman's nature to consistently test boundaries. It is hardwired in them. And when you allow them to cross boundaries, they lose respect for you. And when you hold them accountable, they are resentful and lose attraction. It's a lose-lose for men. The key is keeping them at the right distance to keep them honest and also prioritize yourself. I don't agree with this. But one of my commenters like responded in the way that I would. B. Gregor says, I hear you, but it sounds like you're trying to train a child to be an adult. Exactly. These guys that want to keep a woman on a leash, keep her in your frame, like it's kind of like, I don't want a pet. I don't want a child. If I can't have someone that I can trust to rely on and back me up as a mature person who I can, who respects me, and when I need her, we can help each other out, then what's the point? I don't want to be carrying the load of the whole relationship of a child on my back in the form of a grown woman, Husky says about the video, the older one where I said, I'm tired of trying again and again and again. He says, I think it will take a couple more generations before women will respect men again. And Mr. Rocks reflected a very funny yet philosophically astute comment. He said, my non-existent children will look forward to it. Yeah, like it'll take a few generations for women to change. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like if you're a person who wants kids, my non-existent children will thank you for it. This is the frustration of men today who want kids. You are right. It'll take a long time before things are corrected. But meanwhile, none of my kids will exist. Vero, in terms of this video about keeping your mouth shut, says, my ex was right about me. I am slow. I have the tendency to reflect too much before giving a good answer. I don't like being pressured to give an immediate answer. Too many confrontations started because I was too frank and direct. Yeah, I'm the same way, Vero. Like, I don't like being pressured. Don't ask me my opinion if you don't give me the time to answer it, or if you don't appreciate my honest answer. So many times women just want their own answers spoken through a deeper voice. They don't really care about your opinion on things. And if a woman pressures you, if you don't know and you can't say, let me think about it, let me get back to you, and she tries to pressure you and gaslight you and shame you into, well, don't you love me? You'd say yes. It's like, you asked me for my opinion. If the answer is hurry up, or I want the answer I want, it's no. Learn to sort of really hone and train that reflex, guys. If they don't allow you to answer where you should have every right to have your opinion if they're asking your opinion, and if it's your choice, but they're masking it as like, oh, it's really our choice. Don't you want this for us? Like so many women, marriage or kids or whatever, they ask you whether you want the same thing they want, and you say, well, not right now, or let me think about it, or in time, and they get indignant. It's like, well, if they don't allow you to answer in your own time, in your own way, and when you want and how you want, then it's a no. Again, this is our relationship, or it's yours on your own. Sorry. Don't pretend. Don't just lip service that it's our relationship, where really, by your own pressure and your own actions, Pumpkin keeps insisting that it's only hers. Alonzo says, geez, human, next video, what advice would you give your son on relationships? Good question. I can't answer that. Watch my channel, son. Get some popcorn. I would probably give my son an ear bashing. He would be like, all right, Dad, I know. Caffeine afterburn. Anyway, yeah, I should wrap up. I should use some of this residual energy for the rest of my Sunday before work tomorrow. Anyway, guys, if you've got a microphone, know how to use Discord, jump on my Discord server, have a chat with the other guys, learn how to use push to talk so you don't interrupt people, give people a chance to talk. Like and subscribe, join the channel, any tier you want, support me. The channel's been frozen for like 2.5 years now. It hasn't moved. Yeah, support the channel any way you can. Comment, interact with the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Keep the comments coming. Answer the questions and the polls if you feel you have the time in my community tab. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.